Hey everybody, Chris here with some more Sonicware news, this time related to the original Liven, the 8-bit warps. So Sonicware have just released a new version 3 firmware for the Liven 8-bit warps that adds 6 new effects types. You get sound locking that was first introduced on the XFM. We now have a duplicate copy function for our patterns. We can loop our pattern chain. We've got new drum patches that can be downloaded separately, and it also incorporates a lot of bug fixes. On top of that, Sonicware are also releasing a limited edition Black Keys version of the 8-bit warps, though you don't have to have that to use the new firmware. It's free to use for any owner of the original 8-bit warps. The new Black Keys edition is also available to buy in all territories. So let's take a dive in and have a look at 8-bit warps version 3. So the first thing we need to do is get the update on to the 8-bit warps. I've made an in-depth video on how this works, but just quickly, you hold shift and power on. It puts it into a mode where it's waiting for a MIDI file to be sent in. So we send a sysex MIDI file into the MIDI in. This will show a progress bar, and then we can press OK when it's finished, and that will flash the firmware. But to get the new drum preset sounds on, we just boot up like normal. And we have to remember that on the 8-bit warps, we've got separate pattern and sound memory slots. So we need to pick a sound memory slot that we want to overwrite. So they're numbered 100 to 128, the new presets. So if we select 100, send that individual MIDI sysex file over, that overwrites the buffer inside, and then we can save this down. So we press memory and save, and then we can choose a new slot if we want to, or just press OK to overwrite that one. So if we go through individually and overwrite these slots with the new drum sounds, we'll have them on our device. We don't have to do that if you don't want to, but they're there if you want them. So just to demo what they sound like, I'll just scroll through each one and give them each a play. So as you can hear, some nice crunchy drum sounds and some very kind of arcadey, bleepy effects and stuff. It's quite cool. Next up is the 6 new effects types. These are just accessed from the effects menu, exactly the same as the old effects. I've loaded up a preset pattern here, which sounds like this. It's just to demo the distortion. So if we press function effects, we can scroll across. You can see that the first slot is off. Then we've got chorus, flanger, delay, and crush, which are the old effects. And then we've got a new one with distortion. So we can make it a much more dirty sound. We alter the effects settings from here. So we've got a tone and gain amount, I think. So let's have a go. Lovely stuff if you want to make some nice sort of nasty kind of digital acid. So to demo the other effects, I've just whipped up this quick pattern. Just so you can tell what it says like clean. So if we go effects, and after distortion is phaser. So we've got that classic phasing sound. Next along is a tremolo. Which can create some gated effects if we push it to its extremes. And then we've got a ring mod. Which is good for strange effects, or we can use the metallic qualities of it to synthesize drum sounds. Next along, we've got an auto wah. The next one along is reverse delay, which sounds best at kind of long speeds, I think. So we turn this speed up. You can hear the delays are getting played backwards. So that's our last one, and then next one along will be off. Just an extra little tip on the 8-bit warps, we can record our knob movements of the speed amount for the effects, or we can program them on individual steps. So you can get a lot of movement into your patterns by controlling these effects over time. So let's have a look at the copy duplicate pattern feature. So I've just erased that pattern and I've started afresh with 16 steps. So I'm just going to record something in quickly. As you can see, that's just looping over 16 steps. But if we want to duplicate that into the next page, we can do that. So it just takes whatever length of steps we've already got, it extends it. So we go into function length here, and instead of adjusting like we would normally, we hold shift and turn the value knob. That's going to leap up to 32. That's added another page in, and it's filled it out with the steps that we've got from the previous pattern. So it's just a duplicate. So now if I want to record something different into the second one, that's an easy workflow if you just want to create something and extend that pattern without having to re-record everything. Next up is sound locking. This is related to parameter locking. Parameter locks are a recorded automation. And what sound locking does is it automatically creates parameter locks for your current setup. So you can create a sound, you can record that, then you can change that sound, and then you can record that into different steps, and the previous sounds will be remembered. But at the moment, what we've just created doesn't have any parameter locks on. So if I were to play this, we're free to change the waveform and any other settings that we want. If we want to use sound locking, it works differently. So we're going to have to just erase this. It's the easiest way anyway. So let's just go clear pattern. And that's empty. So I'll just shorten it again just to make it life a bit easier. Then I'll record that back in with sound locking turned on. So when the parameter lock button is orange, that's going to automatically write these knobs in to the parameter locks. So this time when we play back and we change the waveform, it will constantly flick back to the one we've had selected when we recorded. So the settings on those steps are preserved. So if I just added another section on the end, we could then pick a different waveform or any other settings that we wanted, say things like vibrato and the filter, etc. Select something completely different just so you can hear. So now when we play back, the first thing we recorded will remember that waveform, and the second thing we recorded will remember that waveform that we selected. This means that you don't have to go through and program that in by hand. You can also use it in little tiny steps. So if I wanted to change, say, this one to a different waveform again, or let's go really wild and put that in there. So you can go through and use this on all the steps if you want to. So a good example of that is to use it with the new drum sounds that we loaded in. So I've started a fresh pattern here. I can go to memory and pick, say, the kick drum. Press OK. I can, with sound locking switched on, I can program that in. Say 11115 will get us. And then we can go pick a new sound. So I can go memory and scroll through. So something that sounds like a snare. Pick that one, and we can post it into 5 and 13. Then I can find something else in the memory and go, I think 111 is a hi-hat sound. Let's go with that. So you can build up a drum pattern on one pattern very easily, and then you can record that to the looper, for example, and you're only using one loop for your whole drum pattern. So there are certain settings on the 8-bit warps that can't be automated through parameter locks. These are the synth engine type, the filter type, the effects type, etc. So it'll only work on sounds that share those in common. So these drum sounds all use the same synth engine and all have the same filter, effects settings, etc., which is why we can do this. If you switch to a sound that changes these, that's going to alter the things that are already in the memory, so just be aware of that. So the last new feature is the ability to loop our pattern chain. So pattern chaining works like this on the 8-bit warps. You press pattern twice, you can pick multiple patterns, and then it will play this one and then that one. The old behavior used to be that it used to play this pattern, then it would stay on this one, and it would just keep going. So it would get to the end of the sequence and stop. But now we have a new feature in our system. So system past tune is chain loop, and loop should be switched on by default. You can turn it on and off from here. But what that means is we go into pattern chain, go 8 and 11. This will play, then this will play, and it'll just keep going backwards and forwards. So it's great if you want to set up a nice long sequence to just keep that rotating around and around. So I think that's everything apart from bug fixes. I think we've covered it all. So yeah, please leave comments if you want to know anything more, and please like and subscribe and all that stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and cheers.